Hello everyone, welcome to the first video of the 2017-2018 school year, and here we're starting with the Fundamentals of Physics quiz review video, in which I'm going over the practice review with all the sample problems that you should expect to see on Wednesday's quiz. And here you'll see that it's broken up by topics, each of them having a sample problem, things you should expect to see on Wednesday's quiz. And now we'll start with unit conversion. Alright, I'm going to have a separate video talking specifically about unit conversion, so I'm just going to talk about how to solve these problems, whereas in my separate unit conversion video, it's probably going to be like a mini lesson in which I teach you how to use the reference table to help you with unit conversion problems. So take a look at that video once I have that up. Alright, so let's start with having out a handy dandy reference table. I'm going to do some fancy schmancy tech stuff. And look, right here, oh boom! It appeared right before our eyes. Okay, let me first move this to the side, make some room for this sucker over here. Alright, so let's take a look at number one. How many millimeters are in 1 kilometer? So we're focusing on converting 1 kilometer over here into millimeters. So looking over here, we have 1 kilo. Let me shrink this down. Okay, so we start with 1 kilometer right here, 1 kilo, and we're going from the prefix to the base. So 1 kilo equates to 10 to the third meters, the base. Okay, then we're going to take this and go all the way down here. So what happens when we have 10 to the third meters? How many millimeters is that? Alright, now if you look right here, we went originally from prefix to base. You follow these notations. When going in the other direction, as a quick review, from the base to the prefix, you negate that exponent, so you follow the opposite. So let's say we start out with 10 to the third meters. We need to multiply it by this factor right here, except this time, since we're going the opposite direction, you negate that exponent. So instead of multiplying it by 10 to the negative 3, we're going to multiply by 10 to the third to get us how many millimeters? So this should come out to 10 to the 6 millimeters. So 1 kilometer, which we're carrying over, becomes 10 to the 6 millimeters, which is equal to 1 million. That's a lot of work. Okay, that's our answer for number one. Alright, number two. Which of the following is the largest mass? So it might be easier to convert it to a unit you're familiar with, for example, the base. So we're going to take each of these choices and convert it to what we know is the base value, which is grams. So 1,000 milligrams, if we're going from milligrams, if you look right here, we're going from 1,000 milligrams to grams. So let's say we have 1,000 of those. We multiply it by this. So 1,000 times 10 to the negative 3 will get us 1 gram. So that's 1 gram over there. 800 centigrams, following the same method, should get 8 grams, and then 5 kilograms is 5,000 grams, so that's our answer, choice D. Okay. Okay, I want to start afresh on a new page to start numbers 3, 4, and 5. So going off where we left off with number 3, it's a problem about dimensional analysis. Once again, I need to stress to you guys that I need you guys to know how to use dimensional analysis just for this quiz. Afterwards, it doesn't matter which method you use. You can use whichever one works best, But the purpose of me quizzing this is so I know you guys can use dimensional analysis, whether or not you can. So for now, we need to focus on knowing how to use dimensional analysis. And so we're looking for how many books to make 2 stories high. You can start one of 2 ways. I'm going to show you method 1. Okay, so they gave us that one textbook is 4 centimeters thick. We're looking for books. That's the unit we want, so that goes on top. So one book is 4 centimeters. We want to get rid of centimeters because first of all, we know that 2 stories, so 1 story is equivalent to 3 meters. So we need to get these centimeters into meters. Let's get rid of these centimeters with 100 centimeters over 1 meter. We also know that 3 meters is equivalent to 1 story. And we know we're dealing with 2 stories. Centimeters cross off, meters cross off, so does stories, and we're left with the number of books. And you should get that your answer is 150 books. Now here's method 2. What if you want to start out with 2 stories? That's what they gave us. So that's cool too. Multiply by 1 story is 3 meters. 1 meter is 100 centimeters. And we know that there's 4 centimeters for every book. And look, it's the same thing but it's backwards. You should still end up with 150 books. You're always going to start with information they gave you, either if it's one book is 4 centimeters or 2 stories. Either way, you should also keep in mind the unit you need to look for. So we want books as our unit. That should be the unit that's left on top. Alright? Alright, now number 4. What is the approximate width of a person's little finger? So that's your pinky, guys. So if you're familiar with looking at rulers and meter sticks, we're going to estimate this is approximately 1 centimeter. And looking at each of our choices, we need to figure out which one equates to 1 centimeter. If you look at that handy dandy reference table, you'll see that 1 centi is equal to 10 to the negative 2 of a meter. Looking at each of these choices, the unit is in meter. A is too big, B is a little too big, and D is too small, so it's got to be choice C. Another way you could convert it is units you're familiar with. You might be more familiar with centimeters. I've seen some people do this. They convert it to centimeters. So this one's 100, this one's 10, this one's 1, and this one is 0.1, and they're all in centimeters. So clearly, choice C is still the correct answer. Alright, now number 5 is a vector addition problem. This one you got to draw out, find the resultant, and then the angle direction. So Mr. Garger's been pretty sneaky lately, and he's sneaking into my classroom stealing some stuff. So he goes 30 tiles north, goes way up north, goes some distance east, he goes a little bit south, and finally, oh wow, I messed this up bad. I'm going to go undo that. I took east as west. So he goes this way, east, goes a little bit south, and he goes way west to end up like that. So when you're drawing your resultant vector, you should always draw from start to finish. You start over here, you ended up all the way over here. That's your resultant vector. And the angle you're looking for is, of course, this one. Alright. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared to figure out your resultant vector. But first we need to figure out what are the sides of the triangle. So let's look at the opposing directions, 30 north and 5 south. Let's do this in a different color. 30 north, 5 south equates to 25 north. And then there's 27 west, 12 east. That equates to 15 west. So those are our legs of the triangle. So overall, this triangle right here is 25 north and then 15 west. You should get an answer of 29.15 tiles. Now the angle you get by doing the inverse of tan, y over x. Pay attention to which one's y and which one's x. Y is vertical, x is horizontal. So the inverse of tan of 25 over 15, it should give you an angle of approximately 59 degrees. That's our answer. Okay. Number 6 talks about vector components. So in this problem, we have a speed of 8 meters per second, launched at an angle of 27 degrees. We need to find both the vertical and horizontal. So this one is y, this one here is x. Find the y component. You take your vector and multiply it by the sine of the angle. So our vector here is 8 meters per second. Sine of 27 degrees. And then ax, use cosine. And when you plug it in, you should end up with these values over here for y and x. Okay, and that's it. Number 7, we need to figure out the slope of the graph to the right. So because it starts from the origin, we could easily pick out a second point that's not on the origin, and we could choose this one right here. So let me highlight this one over here. So slope is equal to change in y over change in x. Our change in y coordinates is from 8 to 0. Make sure you put units, otherwise it's not going to count. Units, units, units matter. So afterwards, it doesn't matter at that point. And so you should get 2.67 approximately meters per second squared as your slope. That's it. Okay, and number 8. So this is our equation right here. We need to identify the relationship by turning it into a graphing equation. So we always start with our base general equation. We gotta identify which one's x and which one will turn into y. So the standalone, also the first one mentioned, should always be y. The other variable becomes x. So for part A, we're looking at kinetic energy and mass. So mass becomes x. Then you turn everything else that's not x or y into something else. You could lump it all together into a single letter. I'm going to pick k. So y equals kx. Alright, notice here the 1/2 and the v squared, they get lumped together into a single letter, and I picked k. Now based on this, you should gather that this here is linear, and the graph should look generally like that. Now for part B, kinetic energy and velocity. Okay, so y is still kinetic energy. This time x is v, so it becomes x squared. Everything else here, 1/2 m, doesn't matter. Turn that into a random letter. Y equals kx squared. From there, because x is squared in the numerator, you should get that this is a quadratic. And the general shape should look like that. And that's it. So if you felt pretty okay with most of these problems, then you should be okay for the most part. But I highly recommend going over dimensional analysis, graphing relationships, and unit conversion, because those can be the very tricky parts of this quiz. Some people might also find vector components and other things pretty tricky, but I want you guys to definitely identify what is your weak point and focus on that. If you're in need of extra problems, feel free to ask. Anyway, I hope this video was helpful for you guys to going over this quiz review. I may have additional problems if you guys want to go over those as well. Anyway, best of luck. Goodbye.